An ex reached out to me recently, not to apologize, not to acknowledge, not to reconnect, but to get closure. He wanted to talk, to process, to understand what went wrong, why we couldn't, so that he could finally move on. Emphasis on finally. And I said, no. I said, I don't have closure to give you. I'm not reopening the cesspit so that you can feel better about how it ended. You want peace? Find it somewhere else, not from me. And just like that, I became the asshole, the villain in their healing journey, the obstacle to their growth, the person standing between them and their ability to move forward. That's what he's going to tell his $200 an hour therapist. This is what I want to know. When did closure become something that you could demand from someone else? When did your emotional labor become the price of my peace and lily garden and koi pond? When did I need closure become like a free pass to re-traumatize everybody in your past who's already moved on from you? And more importantly, why are we still pretending that closure is real, that it's something that you can get from another person, that they can give it to you? That if you have just one more conversation, ask one more question, and get one more answer, that finally, just finally, you'll be free. I'm thinking of that scene from Shawshank Redemption. Because I'm here to tell you that that's not how it happens. Closure is a lie, and chasing it is keeping you stuck. Hey y'all, welcome back to the Every Shade podcast. I'm Nina in Hong Kong, and I am not an ass. I promise. I'm ranting today about closure, our deep, dark, unhealthy desire for closure, why it makes no sense and might actually be, in fact, having the opposite effect of what we say we want. So maybe I was already triggered when he reached out. Maybe if he had caught me a couple of months earlier, I might have been different. When he reached out, my friend was 3 months out from a breakup, 3 months of dissecting every moment, every conversation, every sign that she missed, every message she misread and should have read more into. And the question that she kept asking, the question that was eating her alive, and by extension, me and all the people around her, why did he cheat? Again. Why? Why? If she could just understand why, she could move on. Maybe he's a compulsive liar. Maybe it's genetic. Maybe he has intimacy issues from childhood. Maybe he's a narcissist. I don't know. Maybe he wasn't breastfed as a child. Maybe he was breastfed too much. Maybe he was drunk. Maybe he never loved her. Maybe he loved her too much and got scared. I don't know. She doesn't know. And here's the big fricking reveal. Knowing won't help. Because even if he sat her down tomorrow in her favorite chair, gave her her favorite mug, and gave her the perfect answer, articulate, honest, emotionally intelligent, all the right therapy words, leaving no stone unturned, it wouldn't make the betrayal hurt any less. It wouldn't give her back the time that she invested. It wouldn't undo the damage. It wouldn't do the work that she needs to do. It would not make her feel like she hadn't wasted 3 years of her life. That answer that she's chasing, it doesn't exist. Not because he won't give it, though he probably won't, but because there is no answer that's going to make this thing make sense. There's no explanation that will turn this pain into something manageable, something that you can file away neatly and move on from, that will change what feels like she's been kicked in the vag to something that feels lighter and fluffier, like a Thai massage from a strong person. Closure is just another lie that we tell ourselves, a finish line that we create so that we don't have to sit through the discomfort of ambiguity, of unanswered questions, of loss that doesn't come with an instruction manual or a how to escape guide. And the worst part for me is this chase of closure is keeping us stuck. My friend keeps asking the same question over and over, like if she asks it enough times, in enough different ways, the answer will suddenly appear like Mufasa in the sky and make everything make sense. Why did he cheat? When she knows, she can close the book, put it back on the shelf, she can heal, move on. I get it, I do. I'm not an ass. Because we've all been there, haven't we? 3 a.m. in the morning, you're awake, replaying the conversation, analyzing every text, looking for the clue that you missed. The moment that it went wrong, the thing, where did it go wrong? The reason. Because if there's a reason, we can understand it. We can categorize it. We can file it away under lessons learned and move forward, wiser, protected, less likely to make the same mistake. But here's what I've noticed watching her torture herself with this question, The answer, if it ever comes, hardly ever helps. Let's visualize it, shall we? Like, how else will we learn? Let's say he tells her. Let's say he sits her down tomorrow, gives her the answer, like I said before. Let's run through the options of what it is he could say. I cheated because I wasn't happy. Okay. Why were you unhappy? Was it me? What did I do? What could I have done differently? When did you become unhappy? Was there a specific moment? Could I have fixed it? Why didn't you tell me you were unhappy instead of cheating? You see, so you get one answer and there's 5 new questions. Okay, next possible reason. What else could he say? I cheated because she was there. I was drunk. It just happened. Okay. So it meant nothing? Or I meant so little to you that you threw 3 years of relationship away for nothing? Or did it actually mean something? Are you minimizing it? Are you lying about how it started? How many times did it just happen? Again, one answer, 5 different questions. Okay, what else could he say? I cheated because I have intimacy issues from my childhood and I sabotage good things. We're pretending he's that evolved. So she'll say, I'm the good thing that you sabotaged. Why didn't we get therapy or counseling? Why didn't you deal with that before you dragged me into it? Does this mean you're going to do it to the next woman who walks into your life? Am I supposed to feel sorry for you now? Again, one answer and a bunch of different questions and emotions you've just unearthed. Do you see the pattern? The why is not actually about even understanding. It's about our favorite thing in the world, control. It's about making sense of chaos, about believing that if you can just identify the reason, you can prevent it next time, you can spot the red flags earlier, you can protect yourself better. You can make it make sense and you can absolve yourself somehow from your contribution to the crap that just happened. But people don't always cheat because of a single identifiable reason you can kind of logic your way around. People cheat because they're selfish or broken or opportunistic or scared or bored or just because they could and nobody was watching. Because they thought that they would get away with it. Because they didn't think, you know? And knowing exactly which flavor of dysfunction drove them to betray you doesn't actually change anything for you. You're still hurt, you're still cheated on, they're still gone. The relationship is still over, the trust is still shattered. The why doesn't heal you, it just gives you new things to obsess over. I know you know someone, and if you don't, then honey, it's you, boo-boo. People who finally got the closure conversation, finally got the answer, the why, and they felt worse, right? Because think about it, what are the answers? Too simple, right? I don't know, I just didn't feel it anymore. That kind of answer is unsatisfying. It's meaningless. It makes you feel disposable. Like you can't really come up with a good reason why you threw us away, why you abandoned the friendship. It was worth so little to you. Okay? If it's not too simple, then the answer is too complicated. A thesis defense on their emotional state in their childhood, their fears, the one time they went in the back shed where their uncle sleeps, their growth journey, none of which actually explains to you why they chose to hurt you specifically. It's overwhelming. It still doesn't answer the real question, why wasn't I enough? Why wasn't I the one to break the spell? Or their answer might be too honest. I met somebody I like better. You gained weight. You lost your hair. She does what I want. I was bored. That answer is devastating. Now you have the answer and you wish you didn't, right? The answer you're chasing doesn't exist because there is no answer that will make betrayal feel okay or abandonment or whatever the thing is, or even the grief or the loss. There's no explanation that's going to turn this pain into something neat and manageable. Oh, so you gambled away our savings and you're moving to Bali with an ex. You did it because when you were 6, the same thing happened to your dad and you're just living out a path that was forged for you. How is that neat and manageable? My friend keeps asking why did he cheat, and I want to say to her, what difference does it make? To you, to your healing, to your ability to move forward. Because here's what I've learned, kind of just watching people chase the why, right? It's not actually about the answer. Nope, no, not true. It's also about avoiding grief. It's about staying busy with the detective work, running around like this, instead of actually sitting with the devastation of what just happened to you, combing through the evidence over and over again, avoiding the reality of the situation of what you've just lost. It's about maintaining a connection, however painful, instead of accepting that this thing is over. This loss has happened. The why keeps you tethered. It keeps you in conversation with someone who's already left. It keeps you connected to the thing, the friendship, the business, the relationship, the marriage, whatever it is. It keeps you hoping that if you just understand them better, you can understand yourself better. You can make sense of what happened. You can control the narrative. But you can't, and God help you, you shouldn't, baby. And chasing it is keeping you stuck. Because while you're asking, why did he cheat? You're not asking the questions that actually matter. What do I need to grieve? What do I need to learn about my own boundaries? How do I rebuild trust, not in him, but in myself. How do I rebuild my life from this tragic loss? Who do I want to be on the other side of this? How do I not punish the next person that comes along for this dickbag's mistake? How do I not take it out on everyone else, my loss? How do I not become a cynical ass, telling kids to get off my lawn? Those questions don't have neat answers either. But at least they point you forward instead of keeping you circling around the same wound, hoping if you poke it enough times, it'll tell you something useful. Imagine that, like a gross pointy stick and stabbing a wound that's trying so desperately to heal. That's you. I'm looking for closure is just poking a scab and tearing it open every single day, every time it kind of makes some bit of progress. The why is such a slippery slope, and the sooner you stop asking, the sooner you can start healing. And who else is to blame but Hollywood? And if I had to guess, I would say too many rom-com endings. The movies and the media perpetuate this foolish idea of a definitive ending, right? That you can drive to the airport, run to the border, see the person as they get ready to get on the plane, and you can have that, here's looking at you, kid, kind of moment, right? Nah, bruh. Our brains crave resolution and certainty, especially in pain. The relentless pursuit of why and what if. So when my ex reached out a couple of weeks ago asking for closure, asking to talk, asking me to help them understand what went wrong so they could finally move on, maybe you understand now a little bit why I said no and why it was an act of kindness. Really, on my part. Because I've watched what the why does to people. I've watched my friend disappear into it. I've seen people get closure and just come out confused, more hurt, more stuck than before. And worse, where the only person who they think can give closure has maybe sometimes passed away. And so they spiral into perpetuity. If only I knew. They're gone. You can't know, and still you're pining. And I thought, I'm not going to do that. Not for him. And honest to God, not to him either. Because here's the sneaky thing about closure. Sometimes the person asking for it isn't actually asking for understanding. They're asking you to do their emotional labor. They're asking you to sit through their processing so that only they can feel better, so that only they can move on. And that's not closure. That's something else entirely, I think. Let's be very clear about what happened when my ex reached out, okay? He didn't apologize. He didn't take accountability. He didn't offer anything that would actually benefit me. He asked for closure, for a conversation, almost demanded it, for me to help him process what went wrong, to answer his questions, to sit through his feelings so he could reach some kind of peace about how things ended. And when I said no, I became the villain, the obstacle, me standing between him and, his path to serenity. And here's my question. How can you demand closure from me, right? How can you reopen a wound that's already healed? And I should do that for you and for your peace. When did I need closure become a magic phrase that obligates someone to perform healing work for you? But that's what this is. It's outsourcing. Yeah, it's outsourcing. It's asking somebody else to do the work to make sense of your pain, of processing your feelings and giving you permission to move on. And I can't move on until you have this conversation with me. And it's dressed in all this foolish therapy language. I need this to heal. I need this to move forward. And I can't move forward if I don't understand. So if you say no, you're the asshole. You're the one preventing their growth. You're the one who won't let them heal. And the tragedy is, this almost never goes their way. They imagine this cathartic conversation where everything becomes clear, where you both speak your truths, you hug it out and walk away lighter and free and ready to move forward. Closure achieved, chapter closed, growth unlocked, hero mode unlocked. Well, here's what actually happens. One of you says something, it hurts the other one. Old wounds get reopened, blame gets thrown around, one person cries, somebody else gets defensive, and both of you leave feeling worse, more confused, more hurt, more stuck. Because closure isn't a conversation. It's not a transaction where you exchange the right words and suddenly everything makes sense. It's not Scrabble. Closure is something that you create internally by accepting that the story ended without the epilogue that you wanted. But we've been sold this idea by movies, therapy culture, self-help books that closure is something that you can get from other people. Why don't you just reach out to him and ask him if you could have a conversation and get some closure? That you're owed an explanation, that you deserve to understand that healing can't happen until somebody else gives you permission. Can you imagine? That's bullshit. Here's what closure actually looks like, when you demand it from somebody else. You break the no contact so that you can have one last conversation. You meet the ex for a coffee to clear the air, the old boss, whatever, whoever it is. You write the closure letter, you ask for the closure call, you demand the closure meeting. And almost universally you regret it, right? They either say something to you like, I've moved on, I can't be bothered, I don't remember. You hear people say, I thought getting the answers would help. Now I have the answers and I feel worse. He explained why he left and it just made me angrier. She apologized, but it felt hollow, and now I'm more confused than before. We talked for 3 hours and I still don't have closure. When does this end? It ends when you stop asking other people to give you something they can't actually provide. Even if they sit down with you and gave you an articulate explanation, and they take full accountability and even apologize perfectly, it doesn't automatically make the pain go away, knowing that they're sorry. It doesn't undo the damage. It won't give you back what you lost. And it won't do the healing work that you need to do. And no, closure from the other person is not the starting line of your journey. The closure that you're chasing is fantasy. It's the belief that you have the right conversation, you hear the right words, you understand the right reasons, you can finally let go. But letting go does not require their participation, does it? It requires yours. And sometimes, maybe even most of the time, letting go means accepting that you will never fully understand. And maybe, just maybe, this is the assignment. Accepting this. That their reasons won't make sense to you. That they might not even understand it themselves. God help them. That the story ended messily and that's just how it is. Accept the ambiguity. Acknowledge that some things are simply unknowable. You are not God. Free yourself. My ex wanted me to help him heal, to sit through his questions and his need to make sense of what happened between us. To give him the answers, the specific answers that would let him move on. But his healing is not my responsibility. I'm not his therapist, I'm not his priest. I don't owe him absolution. I can't give it. I'm healed by accepting that some questions don't have satisfying answers, by grieving what I lost instead of interrogating why I lost it, by building a life that feels whole without understanding every single detail of what went wrong. And he can do the same without Nina. And so when I said no to his request for closure, I wasn't being cruel. I wasn't trying to stand in the way of his healing. I was refusing to participate in a ritual that won't actually help either of us. I was setting a boundary, right? While forcing him to do what he should have been doing all along, healing himself. Does that make me the asshole? Maybe in his story, probably in his telling of it, definitely to his friends who will nod sympathetically and say, oh, she said that? She actually said that? That's so selfish. But I'm okay with being the asshole in somebody else's healing narrative if it means that I'm not the doormat in my own. I stand by this. Closure isn't something you get from a person. It's something you choose. And nobody can choose it for you. And I guess because I've been on both sides of this, thing, the person seeking answers and the person being asked to provide them, I guess my encouragement to myself today is, you don't need their explanation to move forward. You don't need their apology to heal. You don't need closure from the person who hurt or disappointed you. You need acceptance. You need to grieve. You need to give yourself permission to build a life that feels whole, even with unanswered questions. The story ended. You get to write what comes next without them. Until next time, it's Every Shade. Okay. All right.